Oh, thank you so much, Morgan. It's just been a joy, and I have to say, I felt quite sad. My heart is absolutely in Uganda with our beautiful team, our amazing team in Mayugi. So Patrick, Harriet, Moses, Grace, Daisy, all of the team. I'm hoping to come and see you next year. It's just a joy to see the work that you do firsthand and be reminded of the incredible success of Act4Africa. I just want to share with you a little bit about my journey with Act4Africa and why it is such an amazing organization that sits in my heart. There are 168,000 registered charities in the UK, and so many people ask me, why this one? Why is it this one that you've worked with for the past 20 years? And it really starts, as Martin knows, 20 years ago when I sat on the settee with my friend Kathy just after she'd got back from Uganda for that first trip and heard her heartbreaking stories of what HIV and AIDS was doing to ravage Uganda. And as some of you know, it was an expedition that I was supposed to be on, but my trip was cancelled because I was pregnant, and it wasn't my first pregnancy, it was my sixth, but it was the first pregnancy that went to full term, resulting in the birth of my beautiful son, Max. And when I was called, Kathy came back from Uganda. I thought she'd be exhausted from her trip, but she was absolutely on fire, full of life and determined to use all of her energy, knowledge, and contacts like me to combat a fatal disease that was blighting Uganda at the time. And we all know that to be HIV and AIDS. She and Martin were the perfect combination because she was a school teacher. And as we know, Martin's a professional actor, and they just used those skills to incredible effect. So as I sat there, Kathy shared her stories of child-led households with children the age 10 or 11 trying to raise a couple of children, other children from the family because they'd lost their parents to HIV. And the whole time as I sat there pregnant, I just had one thought running through my head, and it was, there but for the grace of God goes my child. It really was pure luck that Max was born into a family in the UK who could provide him with a great start in life. Even simple things that we all take for granted here in the UK, things like sanitation, electricity, a waterproof home, regular nutritious food, healthcare, and of course, the most important thing being education. But what if by some term of fate, he'd been born in poverty in some of the situations that Kathy had seen? I really sat and contemplated. I know that I would desperately pray that somebody from a more wealthy country would help us. And so from that first discussion with Kathy and Martin about their response to the AIDS pandemic, and subsequently what they've done in creating opportunities for girls and women to level up and have greater choices, I knew right from the off, I was all in, completely all in. Some of you know that I run a leadership consultancy, and it seems only right and just that women in Uganda have the same opportunity as those women that I work with. But I knew first we had to get the basics right. And so initially I just went fundraising mad, setting up things like lunch a month groups for people to donate the cost of a lunch a month in Manchester and all the way down to Somerset, to crazy cycling challenges, right? Like cycling 226 miles across the Transpennine Way and roping in every comedian or individual who would listen to me to be part of the fundraising effort. I knew that I really wanted to understand the situations in Uganda, though, firsthand. And so I had to go to Uganda. So I left my 3-year-old son with my husband, Michael, for 2 weeks. He wasn't too pleased. And I joined Martin and Kathy in Kasese and in Jinja for the first time to see actually what's it like in Uganda, what's the reality. And it was there, I have to say, I completely fell in love with the sights, the smells, the vibrancy, the energy, but most important, the beautiful people of this country. And many of these beautiful people are sat in a room with Patrick today. And I thought at first here, it's that sort of naive thing as an English person who's not worked in sub-Saharan Africa, I thought I was going to make a difference. The reality was the experience completely changed my life beyond all recognition. And I found in Uganda with Patrick and his team, my purpose in life. I can genuinely say I've lived and I've traveled around the world, probably to about 45 countries, but I have never experienced greater joy or generosity from widows who have absolutely nothing, who have several children to raise, seeing them leave jugs of milk in the collection plate in their local churches, to working out in communities and sharing meals of corn and eggs with local families, knowing that because they always want to give you the best, they're so amazed that you've come all the way from your home in the UK, that it's likely that someone will go hungry that night. Patrick, I don't know if you remember this day. I remember a day at a HIV clinic that you were running, and Martha was there too. And I was playing with this gorgeous baby named Elijah. And this little boy, who was about 14, 15 months old, was so bright and so sparky and immaculately dressed. He was totally captivating. And Daisy, you were helping me to converse with his mum. And it was the most beautiful, the most perfect of days. The sun was shining and people were waiting underneath the trees to be called forwards for their HIV tests. And later on that day, I remember being totally devastated to hear that Elijah's parents, both of them, had tested positive for HIV. And I just remember not sleeping that night because I was so fearful about his future. And it just came back to me again. Of there, but for the grace of God, goes my child. That I am so lucky that we have education in this country, that my child would not suffer that sort of fate. Because in amongst this beauty of this sort of amazing fertile land, there are so many dark and repressive clouds that can be fatal, not just for men, but so much for women and young girls. I think the statistic is only 53% of girls complete their primary school education, and 40% of those that drop out do so because of child marriage. Women and girls in Uganda are the least powerful members of society. And this is the thing that gives me so much joy and so much pride, is that Act4Africa, your team, Patrick, does everything you can to change that through so many programs that we've run over the last 20 years, from the Girl Effect training to gender equality programs, and of course the HEAL, health, education, agriculture and livelihood programs. And I know, I hope you've got good memories of when we all came and decorated. I know Martin Nolan was with me at the time when we came back in 2017 for the opening of Kathy's Centre and the decorating that we were doing together at the time. I think I did some wing walking to help buy the land for that. I had a team of 5 women. We all got on biplanes and raised as much money as we could for that. And the joy was going out with you and the team, Patrick, and meeting so many entrepreneurial girls and women, showing us things like bricks that men had made for the men that they were employing, and fish that men had caught for them to take to the marketplace. And I remember spending some time with some women's savings groups. And I heard attitudes from men were gradually changing. They were actually really proud of their wives and their girls and their daughters' resourcefulness and their capability to run businesses. And Patrick, you said something to me that really resonated. You said, if you educate a woman in how to set up a micro business, the whole village will benefit, because she will go and teach her sister and her friends, her brother, her parents, her siblings, the whole community. But sometimes, sadly, if you educate men, in many cases, only the man will benefit from the riches that come from that. I know that the past couple of years with COVID has been so tough on our Act4Africa families that we work with, never mind the pandemic. With lockdown in Uganda, I know that that's left food rotting in the fields because so many have not been allowed to go and plough their fields and do what's necessary. But also we've seen things like adolescent girls struggling for food and devastating floods that have destroyed our girls' meagre homes, leaving them vulnerable in displacement camps. And this has been the thing that's really stepped up my sort of passion for what we do over the past couple in order to provide for those girls to make sure they don't fall behind their schooling. I've taken out a range of challenges to raise money to buy food parcels and radios and education materials. And guys, you have been the life's blood to those little families, to those girls who've been struggling. And I've been so proud to see the photos and the film footage that's come back. Some of you will remember my 21-mile swimming challenge, which I don't think I'm ever going to do anything like that again, over the period of August, because I knew we were desperately short of money. And I'm pleased that we raised £7,000 to keep those food packages coming. And I just want to share with you, because it's been 20 years now, and people keep asking me, why do you keep doing these crazy challenges? Because there is so much need in Africa. How can you possibly make a difference? And my response remains the same. There, but for the grace of God, goes my child. But also knowing that my efforts are genuinely having an impact on a community or communities 6,500 miles away. And the most important thing for me is knowing that that money is spent wisely. It doesn't sit with the government, it comes direct to you. 85% at least of every pound is spent in Uganda on the ground, changing lives of women and girls that we work with. And that gives me an amazing sense of fulfillment. I guess why I do this is captured in my absolutely favorite quotes of all time by Howard Thurman, an American author and civil rights leader. He said, "Do not worry about what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive." And quite simply, guys, the work that I do with you makes me come alive. Thank you for all you do.